Finally, now at this last section about Full Metal Jacket called Mickey's Dream. And this is where I think the brilliance of this text really gets hammered home. There are a few endings of films which are so striking and astonishingly fine as this one, in so many ways, and it is a perfect. It has this perfect ending to it where Apocalypse Now, where Coppola couldn't find an ending for Apocalypse Now that was fitting. He kept struggling with, how to end it. Should there be an airstrike? Not an airstrike? I think the ending he came up with was fine, but it was an opera, and ending an opera is something different than ending this, which is in many ways like a clinical case. So Kubrick just brings this thing home so beautifully.
We play fair and we work hard and we're in harmony. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Forever let us hold our banner high, 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 high. Boys and girls from far and near, you're welcome as can be. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Who's the leader of the club that's made for you?
My thoughts drift back to erect nipple wet dreams about Mary Jane Rottencrotch and the great homecoming fuck fantasy. I am so happy that I am alive, in one piece and short. I'm in a world of shit, yes, but I am alive, and I am not afraid.
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Hey there, hi there, ho there, you're as welcome as can be. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Mickey Mouse.
Look at, for instance, what I want you to now focus on is the fact that these men they're young, right? I mean, remember that the average age of the foot soldier in Vietnam is 19. In World War II, 26. If the average age is 19, it means that there are men in the field who are 17, which is legal. If you have a parent sign for you, the Marines and the Army will take you. The Navy will take you. And again, remember these military schools where essentially you already agreed to serve in the military, so you can be part of a standing militia. So they can sort of just vacuum people up out of these military schools, especially in a time of crisis. But anyway, so they're young, and I have a friend of mine who served in Iraq. He's American. At one point, we were looking at this clip together of the end of the film, and he said, this is the first time I've thought of this, but when he and his squad at one point had been humping, they'd been walking with their rifles, and they were humping to SpongeBob, and because they all knew the lyrics, and that's what you do. So in this case, the men are humping to the Mickey Mouse song. So what is Mickey's dream? What is the dream of soft power? Now, the dream of soft power is to take over the world, right? To make every country and every people in it a marketplace. That is what globalization is, and that is the struggle between colonization, and military colonization and soft power colonization. And the argument always is, what do you do first? Do you send the military and then establish banks? Or do you send the banks in first and let them establish things, and then you maybe don't need the military, right? So there are different ways of going about it. Indeed, by the late 1970s, Vietnam, which was in serious economic straits because they were broke because they'd been fighting this war against the French and the Americans for now nearly 30 years, over 30 years, actually came to the Americans, and the Americans loaned them money. So the war was just over, it was, I think, 1979, 1980. And the Vietnamese actually went to America and said, please lend us money. And America was like, absolutely, we're happy to do business with Vietnam. And they were. So what we have is the image of the boots that at the beginning are the men walking through Vietnam, which then becomes the prostitute's high heels, and ultimately the sniper at the very near the end of the film, walking over the men walking over Vietnam, and then ultimately Mickey Mouse boots. And that's what we've got. The last image that we have of the men before it fades to black, and we get the Rolling Stones painted black, where the nightmare essentially is that there is no daylight anymore, that everything should be painted black, which is what happens. I mean, that's how the film ends, right? Is that so as the troops are, and we get Joker's, as always, deadpan, flat, ironic, or is it delivery of these sort of meaningless words where he's like, he's dreaming of these sexual dreams of Mary Jane Rottencrotch and her pretty pink panties, the dream essentially that Hartman laid out for them when they were on Paris Island and in training, is replaced by the Mickey Mouse song. And so here they are, young men, boys, all together with weapons, killers, rapists, marching to the Mickey Mouse song, which is fundamentally the boots that win in Vietnam, is the boots of colonialism, or really the boots of globalization. That's what's going to happen. And so that's ultimately where we're going. If we look back then into the text, well, we see there are a couple of examples. For instance, there's this. Okay, have a look at this.
Hey, Lone Ranger.
Holy shit.
Old mother.
It's the Joker.
What's happening?
I hope I never see you again, you piece of shit.
What's happening, man?
Oh, I'm just waiting to get back to land of the big PX.
Yeah? Well, why go back? Here or there, samey same.
Been getting any?
Only your sister.
Well, better my sister than my mom, though my mom's not bad.
You would think that a soldier would know not to pick up something like a pink bunny in the middle of a war zone, but it sort of makes the whole war zone into a circus, and that's kind of what happens. So this guy picks it up and wins a prize. You're dead, right? And then if we look back to the scene in the Stars and Stripes, when the lieutenant is giving orders basically to his reporters, and he has the fight with Joker about, like, why God passed the law of probability. Did you see drag marks? He didn't see them. It's like, they died, Joker. I told you. We have two kinds of stories here. Well, have a look at this thing. This is not going to be I'm going to get a higher definition image of this, but check this out. This is a blown up image from that scene. Okay, have a look. Okay, so here we are with, it turns out, like, who's on the walls? Well, Snoopy is on one wall. There's a poster of Snoopy from Charlie Brown on one wall, very popular, very realistic, and Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse on the other wall, or on the shelf, the actual figures. So what we have is then Mickey's boots. So no matter what your ideology is, it's Mickey who's winning this particular war. And that's why the boots that are made for walking are so important in the second half of the text, and overall wrap up for us the discussion of what is a Marine to do. And a Marine is to do the bidding of global corporate multinationalism. The end.